Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NITRO Studio workshop today on branding. So we're going to talk about how to brand your SharePoint site with both. We're going to look at both the classic UI and the modern UI. I know we're probably going to have some folks jumping in a couple minutes, so I'll just go over the a few things, a few housekeeping things. If you've attended these workshops before, you should know the spiel. But if you're here for the first time, my name is James Restivo with Core Canyon Software. We run these NITRO workshops every couple weeks to talk about different elements of the NITRO Studio toolset that we have. There's a bunch of stuff, so there's a lot of material. We always have stuff to talk about. And today we're talking about the branding on SharePoint sites. If you have any questions at any point in time throughout the webinar, there is a questions box in the GoToWebinar panel that you're welcome to pop a question in at any point in time. Comments, questions, concerns, anything you want to put in there, go ahead and shoot it our way. We have Scott on the call too, who's going to help answer any questions, and we'll chime in if there's anything that anything that pops up that I should be talking about as part of the webinar, as part of the workshop. So. All right, so without further ado, we'll go ahead and get right into it. There's ways to brand your SharePoint site, whether you have one of our out-of-the-box applications or whether you're using NITRO Studio standalone. There's different ways that you can brand the application. So we have what's called a branding app as part of NITRO Studio. It's there. If you have NITRO Studio, you have it. If you have one of our applications using NITRO Studio, you should have it. And we typically ship our applications with a theme out of the box, and I'll show you ways you can modify that and take advantage of the configuration options you have. And we're going to start out talking about the classic UI for SharePoint, because that's going to be applicable to anyone who's on the call who's on 2013, 2016, and in a lot of cases 2019 as well, and in some cases Office 365. A lot of the early Office 365 sites have classic branding from Microsoft and also from what we've deployed before the modern UI was available. We are going to talk about the modern UI branding. I will, but closer towards the end, there's probably less time on it, just simply because there's less you can do with the modern UI branding. And Microsoft does have some good features for handling it. So I'm going to kind of focus in on the classic UI branding side of things, so you can, we're going to spend a lot of time in that realm. And what I'm showing on my screen, if you can see it, I think everyone can see my screen, is, let's just see if I can see what the audience view is. Okay, perfect. Everyone's seeing my onboarding classic here. We're gonna, usually I hammer on service desk or IT help desk. I figured I'd change it up today and talk about, hammer on one of our onboarding sites rather than help desk. So I'm going to go through a couple of different options. I'm not going to change too much because there is some caching issues and I have to reset the cache, and I want to waste your time watching me reset browser cache and refresh pages. I'll try to maybe change a couple things, but I'm really just going to be talking about the configuration options you have and the things that you can do with the branding. And one thing you'll notice right off the gate, I was playing with this before ahead of this webinar. You'll notice that this section here looks really funky and kind of crazy. I'll explain that. It does look a little weird. I'll kind of explain, but this is not probably the best presentation of what you can do here. But it just want to show you that there are possibilities. There's options. There's things you can do with this header section and the other sections. I'll talk about the different elements of the page as well. I wish you guys could see me. My hands are going crazy. But anyway, my webcam's not working too great these days. But anyway, so we're going to dig into the branding piece and different things you can do with it. And so we'll go into it. So to start out, if you get into NITRO Studio, into the NITRO Studio page for your site, you're going to have this branding app, and it'll look like this to start. Simply click on it. You'll be presented with two options: branding classic, branding modern. So if you're in the modern UI, using in either 2019 or Office 365, you'll want to click on this one. If you're in the classic UI, you'll want to click on that one. I have it open over here, so I'll just pop that open. And let's kind of walk through this front page of it and different things that you can do with it. So on this first tab, you're going to see the different themes that we've deployed out of the box. So we have a couple different themes that we've played around with and deployed as default options. So you can choose one of these to apply to your site already. This should be there for Again, whether you're using an application or NITRO Studio standalone, these options will show for you. We're using our preview is a snapshot of our help desk tool, but this can be applied to any site, and it's basically got some thematic elements. You got a green bar up here, that's the header. You got a different kind of green bar here for this header. You got a different kind of quick launch than what the standard quick launch is. All that's achievable through the branding elements that we have here. There's also kind of a more, kind of stripped down blue version. That's kind of the one I prefer. There's also a gray theme that we've applied to this site that I'll talk about a little bit as well. But you simply can go through, look at each one of these and choose one and apply it to your site. It could be as simple as that. But I know you guys, you want to be a little more creative. You want to be a little more, do something a little different, maybe change up the functionality a little bit. And I'll show you different ways to do that. So you notice there's a couple options for the quick launch. There's the accordion, which I'll show you. I actually did apply that to this site here, Onboarding Classic Accordion. So rather than the modern, so let's just switch back to the, so this might get a little confusing. It's modern quick launch, but it's not related to the modern UI. Just want to make that clear. It's kind of the modern style of quick launch that we're applying to a classic UI branded site, otherwise classic UI branded site. But this is the modern option here. Also, there are ways you can do the hover overs and stuff like that. But the accordion option looks like this, so a little different, but you got the expandable tab, so it's kind of a cross between what the standard and what the default, I should say, cross between what the defaults and what the modern would look like. So it gives you a little bit of that element. It does give you some accordion capabilities, so you might want to choose that look and feel for your quick launch. And or you can do the modern quick launch. That option's here, and that's going to apply to one of these. You're going to have that option if you're doing a custom theme. You can have that option as well, and I'll show you what that looks like. So if you do defaults, it's just going to be the standard SharePoint out of the box defaults. I think if you look at my modern site here, that's not going to work. All right. Anyway, let me go back here. It's just going to be the standard SharePoint. What you see when you create a SharePoint site, whatever that quick launch looks like, that's what the default is going to be. If you click on modern, accordion I showed you, but if you click on modern, you're going to have some more options. You have this hamburger menu that you can pop open, and you see some of those hover over colors I was just showing you, where you come over here and hover, get that icon color look a little different, that kind of stuff. That is done through this hamburger menu I pressed over here. I call it the hamburger menu. And you have a bunch of different options in how that quick launch is configured and how it looks. And so you can change the hover overs, you can change the backgrounds, you can change how bold the font is. You can have you can see how it gets bolder and bolder, and you can just do kind of more stylistic ones if you want, or just literal values, I guess. And you can play around with the colors. So you can choose an icon. You can, if you want to change up what the icon is there, if it doesn't have an icon, you want to add one, you could do that. You could give it a background color. You can do a tooltip, which would be a hover over. So if you create a tooltip on that, it'll give you an option for hover over on that tooltip. When you hover over, it'll give you a dialog. And then when you click links, because typically on the quick launch, you're talking about links to pages within your site or even outside of your site. Where is that going to open up? And you can choose to open up that link in a dialog. So that would be a modal dialog, which is exactly what you're seeing right here, is a modal dialog with the background, the main page in gray behind it. So you could choose to open a link in that modal dialog if you want. So yeah, a lot of different options there. You have the full RGB palette. Well, actually in this case we're using hex, but you can do hex to RGBA conversions if you want, but it is going to give you ability to add any hex color in here from 000 to FFF. So you can put that in there. So again, that's going to be just like the the hover over color. It's got those little differences there. So we could save the changes. If you're making changes, you can save them, or you can reset back to the original if you wanted to. So I think that particular quick launch is coming from this theme that we have applied. And you can see which theme is applied to your site up here at the top. And if it's one of our standard themes, you'll see that here. It'll just say, current site theme was just say, cocaine and mustard theme or cocaine and black theme. You'll see that right here. But when we do a custom theme, it's a little different. And I'll go into the theme builder in a little more detail when we get to it, but I want to run through some of the other settings on this page first before I get into that. So we have custom themes at this level where if you have a department or marketing team, or you've developed your own cascading style sheets, you can go ahead and upload those cascading style sheets here as you would, I think, as you would if you were applying branding to a SharePoint site without any kind of branding on it. So you could upload your own style sheet into it, upload it as a theme. That becomes a theme as an option to apply to your site at that point in time. You could also choose to remove your branding. So you could revert back to plain old vanilla SharePoint if you wanted to. Easy enough. I can hit revert here. I'm going to do this actually because I want to show you. It does apply fairly quickly. Sometimes you have to. Oh, of course, it's going to give me an error. The demo gods are against me. All right. Let's see if it's going to work a second time. Nope. Okay. Well, I guess I won't be doing that. That's okay. But you could revert back. So if you wanted to just do, or you're more comfortable doing branding from the standard SharePoint methodologies through site settings, through those kinds of themes, or if there's a global setting that you need to apply across the board, and you don't want to deal with our branding stuff at all, you can certainly go ahead and do that. You can just revert back. Doesn't change the functionality, doesn't impact the program. If you're using a program, it all it does is removes all the branding. So combined with what we talked about in the last workshop, we're really talking about not functional stuff, but UI stuff, which is important in a way to make sure your users are comfortable with the program and it looks good for them. One of the things that SharePoint, used to have as a criticism was how awful it looked, and people hated it. I heard this all the time years ago. How do I make it not look like SharePoint? Like, I want to use SharePoint, but I don't want it to look like SharePoint. That's kind of the impetus for doing something like this kind of branding. But I digress. You could revert back to that standard SharePoint branding, hopefully with the idea that you have your own idea of what the branding should be and have your own way to do that. But you could revert if you need to. And then there's going to be some general settings here which are applicable for the logo. So you could do that through site settings, of course, but you could also upload the logo here as part of the theme. I guess it wouldn't be part of the theme, but it'd just be a way to upload that logo through this methodology rather than going through site settings to do it. Header button. So if you have application administration, typically that comes into play if you're using one of our out-of-the-box applications. You can see it's got you got a wrench here. In some cases, it might appear on the right in kind of normal branding, kind of our normal mode. It comes over here next to the search bar. Might change things up a little bit so it looks a little different. But you could enable or disable that. You could also just create a hyperlink. You could put it in quick launch. It doesn't have to appear in that wrench over on the right-hand side. That's just where we put it and thought it made the most sense in the out-of-the-box tool. So you could change that up if you want to change the application admin. And if you're not using one of our applications, you're just using NITRO, you could create this kind of link to get to an administrative type page if you wanted to create your own space for your custom built application or custom built functionality. You could decide you want to do that, create that link, and you can put that icon on your page and have it look kind of similar to our out-of-the-box applications. One of the things we have on there too, which might be helpful for your users if you're using out of the box, if you're using NITRO Studio without our applications, you can. This button will be by default have the manage web permission. So it's manage website. It's one of the permissions and permission levels. It's going to hide that page or make it hard to get to unless you have that manage web permission. And if you click on it, and you don't have that permission level, you're not going to get to it. So it gives you kind of a way to security trim that page in a sense. There are other ways to do that, and I'll show you when we get into the more of the custom branding side of things. There's also translation options. We have these widgets that you can put on for translating if you're using the program across multiple countries or multiple languages. You can use a Google or Bing translator. It does have some limitations. I mean, we're leveraging what Google and Bing give us, for free, essentially. So it does have some oddities. I think it was someone was saying that issue type in Italian is just like, type of problem or something like that. It doesn't really say what issue type is. It's kind of generic. It's just basically literally going on what the text says without not knowing the context. It's not going to, may not always give you the right translation. So just a little caveat on that one. But you could put it in there, and at least gives you your users an idea of what what the button or what the section should be talking about if they're reading it in a different language than when it was created in. You can also decide where to put that on your page. You put it on the, down here at the left, you put it at the top, down here on the right, etc. So you can put it wherever you need to. And then when you're opening Nitro Forms, broadly speaking for the site, you could enable those to be always as dialogues, or you could disable the opening as a dialogue and it always opens as another page. So these settings, general settings are kind of independent of those themes. These would apply across the board for any of those themes that we were looking at over here. Got these the blue, the mustard, the black, those types of things. One thing I want to show you, this theme builder is pretty neat because you can actually custom build your theme, and you have some more have some flexibility without having to write up your whole style sheet on your own. We give you some of the kind of a launching pad for building your own theme with this theme builder. So if we hit that, try new theme builder, click that button, it's going to open up a different page here for you got a lot of the same stuff. And you got the general settings we're just kind of looking at, same idea, a little slightly different layout, but it's the same settings. So it basically brings you into a different iteration of the branding app, I guess you could say, where instead of using our out of the box themes that we've given you, you can now kind of build your own. And I'll walk through what some of these different settings can do. Now, first of all, you can start out from a pre-selected theme. So if I hit select here, it's going to bring up the themes that I've already just talked about, just a few of them. Actually doesn't have the like mustard theme and some of the others. It's got the gray theme, whereas the other side didn't. Then you can also create your own custom themes. I mean, when you do, those will pop open here. I didn't add a preview pic, so it doesn't show the preview there, but you can add a preview. So once you create your new theme, you can do that. So you could key off of one of these themes, like, I like the gray theme, but there's just something not quite right, or, the gray isn't quite the gray I want it to be, or, whatever it might be. You can kind of key off of that theme. I'm going to use that one, actually. Hit OK. Give it a new name. You do gray theme custom, something like that, where you're applying, kind of it won't let you update the theme directly. You basically copy it and create a new theme, essentially. It won't let me save it if I just leave it as gray theme. But you're going to have a few different options here. So let's kind of walk through what these different things are as part of the theme. There's a suite navigation bar. Now, that suite navigation bar is this thing up here. And it's got your, actually, I think it's this one here. Excuse me. So I think it's this bar here where it's got the this wrench. If you mark it as collapsed, which we do a lot of times in our modern branding, you'll have to hit the arrow next to your name to expand it. But you can have it collapsed or expanded by default. So you can expand it, collapse it. That's interesting. Huh. I didn't realize it's changing those at the same time. That's funny. So you can show or hide it all the time. You could collapse it all the time. So what that means is by default, it's collapsed, and so you have to come up here and hit this arrow to show it. Or you could expand it all the time, but you still have the option to come back here and close it up. So these are set as expand, and you can kind of see this is what that expand option looks like. It has everything expanded. However, if I come up here and hide it, now the suite navigation bar, which is this guy right here with the SharePoint and the waffle menu and the gear over here on the right-hand side, that disappears. Your command bar also, this guy here is your browse page, items and list ribbon, the share and file stuff. That stuff disappears if you collapse it. So again, you can hide all the time, show it all the time, expand it by default, but allow collapsing, or collapse it by default and allow expanding. So you got those few different options there for these two, this gray bar and this white bar. Basically, you can choose what to do with those. So you can Your web part spacing is going to be your how your web parts are laid out on pages created within the site. So you could do a narrow, which is kind of I think the nice one. Medium gives you a little more space in between the web parts. And then there's whatever the default from SharePoint is, you could just set it to be that. You can see there's a bunch, the extended CSS, that's coming because we created this custom theme. It's got all that stuff in there, but it's all editable. So if you know what element you're trying to navigate to and change, you have the box here to do that. So again, rather than uploading your own cascading style sheet, you could take that kind of same concept of cascading style sheets, CSS, and put it right in here directly. We could also, if you do some UI element styles, you can see there's some colors and things that we're applying by default within this particular theme that you also can go and change. This is, again, all editable. So if I want my web part header text color, so that's going to be the header text of any web part, I can change it to black instead of white. So you can make those changes if you want to. And depending on how your theme is laid out, you can kind of granularly, tinker and change those things as you go. And then you can also add some JavaScript if you wanted to do that. I'm not a coder. I'm not going to talk about JavaScript, but you're welcome to play around with that if you'd like. The header. So, okay, so now you see it kind of jump down. We just hit that general settings section. We got the header. So what's the header? So this is where this kind of thing comes into play. We have a header here, header section. It looks better. Let me just show you over here because it looks a little better. Kind of looks like this normally. Usually when we deploy our program, it looks like this. It's got the top link bar, which is a way you navigate around the site. That's kind of what you need. It's got a search bar, which typically is what you want to have, the ability to search across the site, and it's got the application administration link, which we talked about earlier. But let's say you could choose, if you wanted to hide that entirely. So we could just go and make that disappear. And if that's what you want to do for your branding, that's great. Go ahead and do that. That'd be fine. And you can see we got the hide header. Everything disappears. We don't need any other settings. We're just hiding that header. It goes away. You don't have to worry about it. But if you show it, you can hide that page title. So this is kind of the page title would kind of appear here. Actually, this branding that I have highlighted is the page title. So it could be shown if you want to show it. I'm actually showing it a different way under customize, but I'll get to that in a minute. You could hide that search bar that was there. Let me go over here. It's on this one. So you could hide that search bar if you wanted to, make that invisible. And then you can, furthermore, you can customize the top link bar. So this is kind of the cool part, I think, where you can decide what is shown in that top link bar. So the standard is coming from SharePoint site settings. Whatever that top link bar setting has in your site settings, that's what's going to appear here. You do have some options for editing these if you want to. And you can also, and this is the really cool part, is now you can security trim those links. So if you wanted to make an edit to it and security trim, the home link or whatever link to just particular groups, kind of similar idea to what we're talking about with the application admin manage web permission. You could do that, where you could say, okay, only the owners group can get to whatever my tasks or admin dashboard. That makes sense. Admin dashboard should probably only be for admins, right? So let's go ahead, security trim it, so only the owners group now can see that top link bar. So SharePoint doesn't give you a direct way to permission those top links. We're giving you a way to do that. Furthermore, and this is kind of where I got in trouble up here. I was playing with the header HTML, just trying to see what I could do with it, and it ended up looking like this. So I got to play around with that a little more. But if you're familiar with HTML, you got your placeholders over here on the right-hand side. So top navigation would be essentially your top link bar. Search box we talked about is going to be their search the site. Logo, you could add that in your HTML. Web title, web description. Web title is at the top here, so we could pop that into our header if you wanted to. Page title, logged in user, we could add that to our header if you want. So you can do a couple different things, a few different placeholders that we have here. You can just simply copy and Control V, paste it into your HTML area, and then you can kind of play around with that and get it to look the way you want it to look. Furthermore, we have these header UI styles, so kind of same idea. We're giving you specific CSS for that header section. that you can go and play around with and adjust as needed. All right, quick launch. So we talked about quick launch, some of the different options you have with it, whether it's default, accordion, or modern. Basically the same idea here. You could hide it entirely. That's actually what we're doing with the portal. If you're using any of our portals, we're basically just applying branding to that portal to hide elements of it from the end user. So the end user goes to that portal. They don't see a lot of the same stuff that an admin would see if they go to, or they wouldn't see a lot of the same stuff they would see if they went to a normal SharePoint site, because you don't want them to see that. You want the quick launch to be hidden. You want the sweep bar to be hidden entirely. You want that header to be a very specific way. So you can do that. So you can hide that quick launch, but if you don't hide it, you can play around with it. Again, custom. It's got this same idea as what we're talking about with the top links. Standard's going to be coming from your site settings for quick launch. You have that quick launch setting, top link bar setting. You have the standard options, or you can customize it. So you could customize it. You can actually, if you had a quick launch menu on a different site you wanted to replicate, you could do that, export out the settings, import the settings back in. Or you can, create your new quick launch links through here. So if you do customize, you kind of have to build it from scratch. SharePoint gives you a framework to start from, but you can build your own quick launch if you want to just have a couple links there. And again, you can security trim those rather than using the, there are ways that you can use audience targeting. You can do that. That's possible through standard SharePoint, but you could also do it through here. If you're customizing the quick launch, you can do that same audience targeting with the links here. And then, so if export, it's just going to, export, I think you just do copy and paste essentially of what that quick launch looks like. So you can copy it, and then you can paste it in. Import, I think, just gives you a way to, just gives you a place to paste it. So copy, paste, and get in there. Again, we're giving you some predefined CSS here for playing around with the colors, so you don't have to go and hunt and peck and figure out what color, what setting is this, what is this element name. You can do that through using the F12 settings. Like if you hit F12, you're going to have that whole thing over here. So if you're developing your own CSS, you can kind of pick the element and kind of figure out, okay, what is this element here? What is it called? Oh, header title. Okay, that's what you can then go and choose and play with. So if you're doing custom CSS, you can do that using the F12 option in your browser, or if you know what it's called. I mean, a lot of them are pretty self-explanatory. I think they're kind of obvious what they are, but if you want to know exactly what you're changing, you can always do the F12 option and figure it out from there. So then you've configured your settings, you created the way you want to do it. Let's go ahead and I'm going to do something a little funky. We're going to create this gray theme custom. I'm going to, I'm just going to do that actually, because that, this might be kind of funky. I don't know what's going to happen. We're gonna try it. So save my theme. Now there is a difference between saving the theme and applying the theme, right? So you can go and have whatever theme you want in the background here. So we have the gray theme applied in the background, but then we want to apply our new theme that we just created. You can do that from the apply theme option. You can see here's my new theme that I just created. Gray theme custom, apply theme. Let's see what happens. Just for the fun of it. And I was having some trouble getting the header, I think because of caching issues. Oh, there we go. Actually, looks not too bad. Actually worked out pretty well. Look at that. So that's the top navigation, but you see my search bar went away. Kind of makes it really minimized, and maybe gives it a better look to your program than you have. So if that could be the only element you change. You could copy a whole theme and just change that one element. Now you will note that the application admin went away, but that's whatever. That's fine. We can add it back in or make it as a change where that link appears. It doesn't have to be in that range. It could be somewhere else. But and it can, as you see with the security trimming, we could even put it as a link up here in the top link and permission it to only be visible to certain users. So different options, different ways that you can play around with that branding. So I think that's pretty much it. Again, remove branding. So again, we're in the theme builder, not the when you first hit branding classic, you get the option to apply your theme and kind of pre-built themes that we have in there. You can play with the quick launch. If you do the theme builder, it's a little different. Same idea essentially. You just come in here, do the theme builder, and build your theme that you want to then apply. And then you could always, if you hate it or it doesn't look good or whatever, revert, get rid of it. So same setting you had before. And general settings, the same thing we talked about already. So I won't belabor that point. But that's kind of the rundown of what you can do with the classic UI branding. And when we go over to the modern, you'll see that there's a lot of similarities in things that we can hide and show and stuff like that. So a lot of it's going to be pretty similar, but we'll talk about it when we get into it. I'm going to leave the questions box open. If you have any, just interest in time, I'm going to keep moving and go into the modern UI branding piece. But if you have any questions or comments at any point in time, please pop them into the questions box. Happy to answer anything if I didn't go over it in enough detail, or how-to question. Let me know. Pop it in there. So so again, that's kind of the rundown of the classic UI branding. Let's go into the modern UI. So modern UI, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, is the kind of the new, not new anymore, but the newer way that Microsoft is rolling out SharePoint sites in the modern UI. It's more responsive. There's a lot of truth to that. The classic SharePoint wasn't super responsive. You had to do a lot of customization to it through CSS or otherwise to make it responsive. So it wasn't there by default. Modern UI is more responsive by default, but also because of that, because Microsoft is a little more close to the vest and allowing changes to it, because it is kind of designed for mobile interfaces. There's less you can do with it, which is fine. I mean, I think it looks pretty nice. I mean, it's pretty clean. There's a lot of good parts of the modern UI versus kind of the classic UI. I thought didn't look that great, but modern UI looks good. But we do give you some options to change it still, and I'll show you what those look like. So again, you're going to come into your branding app here. Just hit branding. It's going to pop open these two options, and then we can go over to branding modern. And again, I have that open here. So you can see right away, settings are different. There's less going on here. There's only a couple tabs, so it's a little more lightweight than what you can do with the classic branding. But conceptually, it's kind of similar in that you're going to be hiding or showing certain elements of the page. So again, you got your command bar, which you can hide or show. There's other elements like feedback and comments and social bar that you can hide or show. And I talk about these in our manual, but I think this is essentially down here at the bottom. These are your, what I'm talking about with like feedback and, likes and views and things like that. We might not want to show those in our branding, so we can go ahead and hide those. App bar. So this is a relatively new thing over here on the right-hand side. I didn't know that's what it was. I had to figure it out. Hide app bar. So we could hide that. So this is your, kind of a app bar that Microsoft's thrown on their page. You can hide that if you wanted to. Full page layout. I don't exactly remember what this one's doing, but you could do a full page or you could do not full page. I guess you do an alignment. So I guess if you're in a, if you make your page bigger, kind of going back to the modern responsiveness, mobility of it, if you want to do the full page layout, that's fine. It will be responsive. If you want to do a not full page layout, you could kind of center things, push them to the right or push them to the left. Otherwise, it's kind of like full justification versus right justification, that kind of stuff. Page title, again, that's right here. So we can hide that. Web part spacing kind of give you the same options. I think it's this, we don't explicitly say it, but I think it's pretty much the same as what I showed with the classic, where you have 1 pixel, 5 pixels, or whatever SharePoint gives you by default. Again, suite navigation bar, this guy up here, hide or show, hide or show or collapse. We also give you option for applying your own CSS and extending through JavaScript. So similar to what we had on the custom, the classic branding. You have that here in the modern branding as well. So we have the separate header section. Again, you can hide or show the header. The title position. Actually, I think we are hiding sorry, this page title is different. I think this is essentially it right here. Header is this guy up here. So I misspoke earlier. So this is the page title. This is the header up here. So we can hide or show that. This one applies right away. So there's no like theme that we're applying. there are site themes. I will say that. But these are kind of applied generally without regard to the theme. The theme is really more about color, and where this is more about um, hiding or showing elements. Whereas the classic branding was a little more of a mixed bag of hiding and showing things and creating colors. The theme is more the color side of it, and then the UI settings are more about hiding and showing things. So, if we show that header, again, if hide it, it goes away. If you show the header, we can choose where to put it, whether it's on the left, center, or center. Top link, your top link bar up here. Again, we can decide where to show that. And then the search box, which is not on this page, but it does show on other pages, I believe. It's not shown on this one, of course. Let's see. Yeah, well, we have it disabled. Of course, it's not going to show. So if you enable it, you can select which list to search. So we can actually have a search box that's searching a particular list. So little different than our, I think our list search is better, but you got to put that on a page. This would apply across the site. You can have a place to search a particular list across the site if you wanted to, say tickets. I said I wasn't going to hammer on help desk, and here I am, help desk. But anyway, so you could do, just search one list within your site with that search box. Otherwise, you got the whole, this is part of the suite navigation bar, so that disappears if you hide it. Otherwise, it'll be there, and you can search the whole site. Then application admin, same idea as the classic UI. You have a application admin page that you want to send people to. Here you get a little more control over what permission level is going to be allowed to access that page. So different than the classic UI, it's by default looking for the manage web permission. In this case, you can choose a different permission to apply to that link. We also have the translator widget that's still there. Google and Bing, same thing we had before. NITRO Forms dialog, open dialog or not, and then quick launch. Like we talked about before, we have ways to customize the quick launch. So we could, this is kind of the standard SharePoint quick launch over here for modern UI, but we could customize it and give it some, kind of that modern styling that we're looking at before. We could add that in here and make that work. You have the colors that you can add to it, so you can make it like a reddish color. And this in the modern UI, I think, does actually apply things pretty quickly. So I can do something like this and do like a green, save the settings. It's going to take a second to apply, maybe a couple of refreshes. Oh, there we go. Good, perfect. That didn't take too long. So now I've got my icon there with the color scheme, so you can kind of play around with that and see what looks good. If you ever forget what these things are too, we do have our manual that you can refer to, and we have these outlined, but you can always kind of play around with it and say, okay, what's the header again? Let me hide it and then apply it and see what it looks like. And maybe I just like doing that. I don't know, but you can do that. But yeah, so you got the quick launch. You can customize that in the in here in the modern UI as well. In the site theme, this is going to what I was saying, where the UI settings, you can hide and show stuff, where the theme itself, as compared to the classic UI theme, the theme here is basically just colors. You're applying colors, which are great. I mean, you want to change up what this out of the box colors are, or pick something. What you can do, you could of course put in your own palette if you have your theme palette that you want to use. But I encourage you, or I like to use this UI fabric generator, where you can come in. It's offered by Microsoft, so this is it's coming from Microsoft, and you have options here. You have the standard SharePoint options, but you can choose your colors the way you see fit. I mean, you could do, this is not going to be good, but I could do like all zeros. And that actually looks okay because it's kind of a black and white theme. I don't know what they had before. DFA 222. See what that is. Kind of an orange theme. Yeah, so if you know what your hex colors that you want to apply are, you can do that. Create your theme palette. One thing you want to check on is if you want to, for accessibility issues, you might want to make sure that your color palette is going to have a legible text and minimum contrast. here. So if you're playing around with your settings and it just doesn't, so you're not getting that, then you can adjust as needed. This is not going to be any good, I don't think, but just kind of playing around. I can't even see that at all. Well, whatever. If you get it to a point, let me kind of back out of this and go back to here. That doesn't look good. I don't want to save that. You have an export theme option over here on the right hand side, and essentially it's just going to take your code, your palette, and put it into code, copy it. You don't have to, again, you don't have to know code or anything. Just paste it in. You can do a standard SharePoint, something like that. Create the theme palette. I did apply a theme palette. Why does it tell me that? Anyway, we'll take a look at that offline. But you got your theme, you create your theme, and then if you have a theme applied, you can update an existing theme. We've created a couple here with our own kind of palettes on them. We could delete a theme if we don't like it anymore. We could go and delete it, and then ultimately we can apply the theme if we want to apply the one we just created. And that's going to change up the color scheme on your site, and maybe make it better, make it look nicer, whatever you need to do with it. So that's kind of the rundown of the modern UI side of it, and the classic UI, and different things you can do with those branding elements. So open to any questions. If you have any questions on this, you can go ahead and pop those into that box at any point in time. How to apply, how to adjust, how to change it. I'm sure most of you are probably playing with the stuff on your own, which is probably why you're not asking any questions at the moment. That's fine. But if you come up with any questions, shoot them over to us. We're happy to answer anything at any point in time. But that just about covers it. Scott, anything you want to add in here for the branding piece?
No, there's no questions, but I think there's a lot to absorb and a lot of different options. So it takes time to see. You kind of have to know what you want your site to look like, and then go in and figure out how to make it look that way through the different options. It's just good to know that all these options are available. And then when it comes time to use them, that's when you'll start to have questions about it, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, good. Well, good presentation, James. Thanks for that information. Looks like I got a phone call, so I'm going to jump on to that. All right.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much. I see there's one individual with their hand raised. If you can pop your question into the box, we can get it answered. But otherwise, I'll go ahead and talk about some of the upcoming stuff we're going to be doing with webinars and workshops. So we're going to be talking about administration and management of NITRO Studio. So that's going to be interesting, where I'm going to show you where we can see subscription details and see some more information about NITRO from kind of a high level, broader tenant level management area. I'll show you what that looks like. So that's going to be coming up in a couple weeks on May 19th. So that'll be good to join up on that one. And then we're going to be fleshing out the rest of these. We'll have another webinar in June, probably late June. So we'll have a couple more in June. We'll put on there. It's not quite scheduled yet, but for webinars, we get more broad webinars. We have the NITRO Studio as a business process automation platform that's coming up a week from tomorrow. So if you're using NITRO Studio, I think this will be a great one for you to join, even if you're already using NITRO Studio, because it is, I think people come at it from different directions. They come at it as an info path replacement. They come at it as, alternative to Power Apps and Forms. And you can use it as a full business process automation platform, and that's really what it's all about. So it can do those things. It can be an info path replacement, but it's really a business process automation platform. So encourage you to join up for that one when that's coming up next week from tomorrow. And then we'll be fleshing this out and adding more webinars. We added a whole bunch, and now we have to come up with a bunch more. So we did have a question though pop in about. So again, if you want to stay for the question, that's fine. I appreciate everyone coming today, and I hope to see you on the next one. I am going to go ahead and answer this person's question. And the question was, can you show us how to collapse the left side menu for tickets, problems, and change requests? Okay. So I believe that's going to be on a modern site. If I know the individual, they're using our modern UI. And let me pop into the branding here for the modern UI. So it looks like, in the classic UI, you can see it's got this collapsible option here. I'm actually not seeing that collapsible option here for the quick launch. Let me see if I missed a setting here or something, but that's a good question. I'm not actually seeing that here in our quick launch settings for the modern UI to allow it for collapsing. So that is, something we might want to take a look at adding. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate that. So we can certainly take a look at that as a possibility to make this a little more minimized if it's possible. There might be technical reasons it's not doable. I don't know. I'll have to talk with our dev team, and I will certainly get back to you and let you know on that. So we'll talk about that piece. I'll get you an update on that piece when I come to it. Okay, so we got a question about changing the colors on the top of the header section in the modern UI for a portal. Okay, good question. So you're talking about if you're using, so I didn't create a portal here. Let me go to our demo site. I'll go from here. All right, so we can pop into one of our demos here. And yeah, so there are some UI elements that you can change on the portal that are a little different than if you're using one of our out of the box portals. So I mean, that's actually a good point, and we can spend a little time talking about that at the end of this webinar. So the question is, how do we change the colors up here? So this is, I think this is what the individual is talking about. It's, whatever color is up there, you want to make an adjustment to it. So let me see where we would do that. Page theme branding. Header. Well, one thing you could do, and I'll talk to the dev team and see if there's a setting or a place for doing this, but essentially, we could do this, thing here. We're inspecting the option, CSS header area. I think we could do something with the CSS style sheets. We could change that CSS header area to be a different color. Let me see if I can find where it is in here. That's page title area, right side area. You can kind of see where these different things are located. It's kind of neat to see that. But I am not seeing where we can change that background color. That's the portal heading. So that's the kind of thing you'd want to do, is let me maybe go through that. I'll get back to you offline because I'm not finding that particular setting here. But I would imagine what you can do, think through the CSS. If you going through CSS, you can find out what the element is of what that background image or color is, and we can make an adjustment to it that way. So I think that's going to be where it's coming from. So again, yeah, I'm not gonna. I'll spend some time looking at this after the call today. But yeah, so that's that, and that's the header right side. That's kind of neat. I like this F12. You can kind of see where everything is on the page and what what exactly it is that you're changing. So that's that. So I got 2 questions I'll get back to you guys on. Usually I'm able to answer them, but you're asking some good questions today, so that's excellent. I will get back to you on both of those things about collapsing on the modern UI for the quick launch, and I will get back to you, the other individual, on the changing the colors in this top section of the portal piece. So if anyone has any other questions, feel free to pop them in to our questions box. Otherwise, I think we're good. Covered what I want to cover, and any follow-ups, again, let me know, and I'd be happy to talk to any of you at any time. So I will look forward to seeing you on the next workshop. Thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. Take care.